forget that. So we'll be uploading this session in YouTube. That's okay with you, right,
Oh,
Shelley?
yeah, I'm all over YouTube anyway, so.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we can start. People are showing up, so I'll admit them. Maulik, why don't you take over and then start the introduction?
Sure. So, hello everyone. Today's session is for troubleshooting and tactics of for Dockers and Kubernetes by Shelley Benhoff. Shelley has 20 plus years of experience in IT as an entrepreneur, manager, trainer, and she is also author at Pluralsight, also a Sitecore MVP since many years. She loves to learn new things as well as mentor and teach others. Shelley is currently a co-owner and CEO of Hopstack LLC. I won't take much time to introduce her because most of the people are aware about her. So over to you, Shelley. We are looking
Thank you
forward
so
to this
much.
session.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. Yeah, so as a Pluralsight author, recently I have been writing a Sitecore Docker course. I had a lot of trouble, so I figured, I don't want people to struggle as I have. It's why I teach and help out. So in this session, I'll kind of review some general steps to take, and then also some of the major problems I had, especially with Horizon. I looked at the instructions. I thought it would be easy. It took me days. So anyway, without further ado, let me get my screens in order. So first, yes, I will show you a quick demo on general steps to take. Let me go ahead and stop this. So as you can see here, I have a complete solution. And I'm going to start with Docker here. I have some stuff up already. So here are all my images. I have loads. Containers, yes. And this one has exited. We'll talk about that in a minute, but the extension here is necessary. It'll help you so much with everything. It's really simple to inspect, running containers here, and the status will generally tell you an overall idea of what's wrong or what's right if it's running like mine is. And then it will tell you the stats of everything. And it's also really useful to see this. It's the log path in JSON format, which is useful sometimes. It also shows the mapped volumes and especially the writes. So mapped volumes are read, write initially. You can change that, but I'm not sure why you would. But if you look at one of the volumes that I have configured here, Docker Compose Override, you can see like the logs I have mapped. Yeah, like here. So with the mapping, it's actually important to know that if you delete things in the mapped folder, it will delete them from the container. So with that in mind, if you have deployed locally and the container's running and you delete what's in your local folder, it will delete that from the container as well. So that is a tip I learned early on. So then what you can also do is view the logs here. So this way it like truncates text, which I don't love. So what I usually do instead, get into the Docker folder, compose instead logs, and then the F flag, and then tail. I like to say like 100. Yeah, so there you go. This is much more complete, not truncated information on every running container here. What you'll see a lot is this right here. Solar init exited with code 0. So at first I thought all of your containers have to be running ngreen all of the time, which is not true. Sorry, I'm hearing some noise there. If everyone mutes, that would be appreciated. So the solar init runs once. It populates the solar cores and then it stops, and that's okay. I was looking for information like the site worked, right? But me as a perfectionist, I was like, I think all of the containers need to be up, but no, that isn't the case. So if you see that, don't freak out like I did. So we talked about logs, we talked about inspecting running containers. If a container has run and exited, you can view the logs as well. And you can see here this message, Sitecore collections are already exist. It's one of my favorite error messages of all time. So what this just means is that the solar cores exist. So it skipped them. That is expected. So solar init runs like once. You don't have to run it again after that. I think, I'm pretty sure. Okay. And then of course your log files, as we looked at before in this mapped volume, would be in data, CM, and then logs, and it just imports all of them. Again, if you delete these, it will delete them in the container as well. So just be careful. All right, Sitecore logs. So another thing that you can do if you're experiencing problems, like I experienced a lot where after the solution built, it came up slowly and timed out. This was mainly because my internet connection was awful until I just fixed it this uh, weekend. And may I say, Mocha? Yeah, that's good stuff. So what I did, I have a script here to start. It automatically runs prune first. So a prune will remove containers and orphaned images that aren't used. Yeah, and this is important because sometimes, especially if you're working in like multiple topologies and all of that stuff, the containers can hang. So in that case, prune, restart Docker, and then run start a couple times potentially. Sometimes it hung, and if I started them like twice, it just magically worked. I really wish that I had more of an answer for that. Maybe somebody else knows, but yeah, that happened at times. So system prune, make sure that your volumes are mapped correctly and that you have not deleted anything. If your containers are hanging, you can start them twice to see if they come up. The other thing was the first time I ran CM, again, because my internet connection was absolutely horrible and it would blip a lot. So I forget where I was going with that. I'm sorry. This happens when you get older, you guys. Yeah. Anyway, then you can also view a list of your images as well. Here you can see I've been very, very busy. But these are the ones in my project here. So I don't think a lot of information is here except for the tags. So tagging the images will allow you to specify builds or releases overall. I didn't do that. I always used latest, but I can imagine that sometimes the image tag instruction on deploy isn't exactly right, and that could be confusing, I think. Alrighty, once you have a list of your images, if you're experiencing a problem with a specific image, in my case, SQL was the one I deleted and recreated the most. So all you have to do is Docker RMI is the command, and then the name of the image, which I am not going to delete right now because they're running. Actually, I could delete prep ones that I'm not using anymore. It's like on Docker prep, this one ID. Yeah, so it's gone. So then if I wanted to rebuild it, then I would just do Docker compose, build, and the name of the service instead. So in your override file, the ID right here is the service. So I'd say ID, I'll just hit OK. Yeah, so that is another step to take when you are experiencing problems. If you want to be really, really bold, you can delete all of your images using Docker RMI all, which I am not going to do because I have too much to lose. Your implementation should come with a clean script. Where is that? I know I have one somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So the clean script I have here is from Konabos. I don't know if anybody's here from Konabos, but this was the best example that I found. It was really clean and it was easy and lightweight. Yeah. So the clean script is helpful because if you're having problems with SQL and Solr, which are almost always hand in hand, I had loads of this. The clean script will remove all of the stuff databases in the MS SQL folder here. When you do that, Solr also has to be deleted. I found so many problems if I did like either or. So yeah, especially if your project has multiple topologies, it's like, you know, you have separate database configurations overall. So once you remove all of this, the SQL and Solr init services here are needed. You will have to reseed everything. If you have a new Solr stuff in here, if your Solr cores are new, log into Sitecore, populate the Solr schema and re-index. That needs to be the first thing that you do. If you don't, you're going to get some weird stuff. I mean, the error messages I saw in no way pointed to the fact that I needed to populate the schema. It's just, yeah, you have to. Alrighty, so we talked about build, we talked about solar schema, we talked about solar init exited with code 0 that you can ignore. Oh, another good thing to do if you're experiencing errors is do this. Say, no, I don't need the solution at this time. You will need to also comment out this part in CD and CM. So what this will do, oh, and then rebuild your images. What this will do is allow you to see if the issue is configuration or solution. Sometimes the error messages are not helpful. So it's kind of a quick step to figure it out initially. For me, 9 times out of 10, it was the solution. Yeah. Common issues I found were in the web config. The struggle there was that if you are using multiple topologies again, you need to compare web config and merge them or figure out like a way to specify which one to use. I feel like I ended up with one, but then I had added a line to the config for XM1. I don't have an example of that. So anyway, yeah. And then also make sure that the solution builds with 0 warnings or errors. Warnings generally aren't as important. Obviously, it still builds, but in this world, like, you want no warnings at all. When I started out initially, I had warnings on the DLL versions for, I want to say, system, MVC, and one other, where, you know, this happens all of the time. The version in the reference didn't match the version in the package. You know, that happens at times. So yeah, that was an issue I had. We talked about comparing configs. Oh, I don't think we talked about starting and stopping containers individually. So if you're having a problem with one container, SQL is the usual one. You would just do Docker compose down and the name of the container, actually, which I'll get by using PS. So if I wanted to take down the SQL one, the name is actually this instead of the tag here. Oh, sorry, here. So I'm just going to do Docker Compose down, and then the name of that container. Did I not do that right? What was that? Or Docker. I can't remember this off the top of my head. Hold on. See, even teaching this, it's like I have to look stuff up occasionally. Docker Compose down, single container. Yeah. I typed that right. You're seeing a live example of some of the issues I had. Docker Compose down, and then the name of the container. Is that the wrong name? Potentially. Docker, hold on. I don't like when stuff like this happens and I can't figure it out. Let me use the other SiteCon Docker XM1 MS SQL. Nope. Does anybody know what I'm doing wrong here? I really don't like when stuff like this happens.
No idea. Is it,
right?
is this down? Yeah, it says down, right?
Yeah.
And then the volume name.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Let me look at the stop script that I have.
Do
Yeah,
you
Docker
have to
Compose
use?
down.
Yeah. Do you have to use like, -p or something?
And
I
then
don't think so. It does sound like.
Yeah. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that should work. If I figured that out, I'll, write about it on Twitter or something. So that's just awfully strange. Okay, so that is the general troubleshooting errors. Let me go back to my slides. I've got some other stuff to talk about in a slide form. Just get my screens all set here. All right, so unfortunately for K8s and AKS, I could not bring myself to set this up again. I have a very small company and I had to pay to set this up for recording. One of the ways that other Pluralsight authors suggested I save on costs was to take it down every day and put it back up every day. I have these steps down on how to do this by now. But anyway, so for troubleshooting, the extension here is so useful. As you can see, everything's pretty green, but if you don't have green pods, then there are a few utilities here that are available. So when you have a pod running in the Windows cluster node, yeah, node, then these are your Sitecore specific ones. So you can right click on the pod and choose describe, which is here. This will show you all of the statuses and especially what's important here is the phase. Running is good. you might see container creating. Sometimes that hangs. It hung for me on the CM a lot. Again, I think that that's probably because my internet connection was terrible. So I hope that nobody else has to go through that. The other important piece of information here is the image. This will help you make sure that it's pulling the correct image and the correct repository as well. You can also view the status of your pods. I think I have a thingy. Yeah. So that was the status of the pods. This is if you right click on a pod and choose describe. The last one, I think I said it was describe, but it is not. This is the general statuses here. But describe will give you a little bit more information on the steps it's on or it took, or problems it had as well. You will sometimes see things like pull image error. That one just means it means that it could not access the image. Either it's wrong or you have to have either secrets or in AKS we'll use, instead of a pull secret, a what are they called? Service principal instead, which is a lot easier. Well, okay, it's easier once it's configured and you understand how to, but that's that. The logs here, you see, use a simple command, kubectl logs. This command brings up the Sitecore logs, from inside of your containers. This is very useful. I actually didn't know about this, and Rob's here and we were wondering how to do this, and we were both like so happy that it was this very simple command. It's really useful. With this helped me to see where I see some chat for sure, Rob. Yeah, for sure. Using this, I had all kinds of problems with certificates and host names wrong. This gave me the information I needed to, figure it out. We will talk about what specific errors I had in a second. All right. So some common errors that I found. Process cannot access the file because it's being used by another process. This generally means it's a port problem. Check the ports that are assigned to each service in your Docker Compose files. That one you might see a lot at first until you have stuff figured out. Can't close tar writer. This is one I came up a lot, and I learned early on, you're trying to build an image for a container that's already running. That will not work. Cannot do. YML formatting errors were fun because spaces over tabs, you guys. YML files like spaces over tabs, and most of us as Microsoft developers, we're used to tabs. There are settings to help this. I had problems with this at first because I thought that I could use the K8's Compose tool to easily just translate everything into YMLs. And, you know, it's just a lot easier to copy from an existing solution, honestly. So yeah, that's one I came up. The image is not updating on build. So this will happen if the Docker Compose hasn't, or if you haven't made changes to the Docker file, a lot of times that image will not rebuild. So in that case, you can just delete it and then build it again. This was also something I did quite frequently. So solution errors, we already kind of talked about these earlier. When you're experiencing solution errors, there are a few things you can do. How am I doing on time? Oh, I'm not doing well on time. I have a lot more. I might have to come back. All right, so we already talked about the errors and warnings, and then you want to make sure that the issue is the solution itself. You may also experience issues if your solution image is older and hasn't rebuilt either. And comparing configs is also something that we talked about already. Let me take a look at what slides I have left. I think I may have to, skip ahead. I had one more section, but I don't think that we'll have time for that. So maybe I will return next time if you want. But yeah, Pluralsight updates, because I have just completed something. So right now, right now my managing Sitecore Docker containers course is complete. It should be out next week, I'd say. So I just wanted to highlight some of the stuff that's in the course. It really covers everything from scratch. You'll learn how to create a custom set of Sitecore containers for each service that we saw earlier. You will work with Sitecore's images using multi-stage builds and also adding the Horizon module to your CM container and SQL containers using the Sitecore module registry. You'll work with Sitecore topologies in your containers, and you will add both the XM1 and XP0 topologies to your project from scratch. You'll learn considerations for choosing the right tooling for deployments, including Kubernetes and AKS. And I walk you through the entire process step by step. And I also included Search Stacks as the solar cloud provider with a full walkthrough on how to set that up and also run the scripts to generate a token and the API key as well in order to allow it to communicate with your AKS cluster.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great job.
And thank you. I mean, you know how much I love the product. I'm happy to teach it. And finally, troubleshooting. I cover more stuff about specific types of errors, like certificates. I had a lot of invalid certificate errors, so I have that, and also SQL as well. I have a long clip about the problems I had with SQL. Yeah, and I just, oh, there you go, soon. And I just want to thank the people involved in this. These scripts and tools I used were very clean. I highly suggest the Conabos repo. Their examples are the best, I'd say. Yeah. And then Bart, bless his heart, let me use his automated scripts to set up an AKS cluster step by step. If I didn't have that, I would have never been able to take my instance down and put it up again every day to save costs on hosting for myself. Yeah, so that is an excellent tool. Very, very useful. And then we've got everybody that I featured in the course, including Rob, who's here today, and he had access to the to it early as well and has provided some good feedback. And Gabe is also here. So, hey, he has a script to check your system to make sure you have everything installed that you need to run Docker as well. So that was really, really helpful. Yeah. And then I have some channels on Pluralsight as well with all kinds of courses from industry experts that I know and that have helped me a lot to learn all of this stuff. So you can find links to everything that I've talked about today on hofstech.com/learn Sitecore. I think that's about it. Thank you very much for your attention today. I appreciate it a lot. If you want to connect, I am all over Twitter. That's probably the best place, or LinkedIn, and YouTube, maybe, if I ever get back to that. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley, for excellent presentation. I guess, we'll get you back for more
Yeah,
later. I know that this is just short time. We try to keep it short because it's in the daytime, and we want everyone to join. So yeah, definitely. We have a few minutes. If anyone has any question, I actually muted everyone because there was some background noise. So this is the time to ask question. Please go ahead.
I got a quick question. Like, we need to get some developers using Docker. I guess like their environment versus Kubernetes. I know we have there's the Sitecore demo out there as an example. Is there anything that they need Kubernetes wise for their local development environment that you came across that, or just work on that solution, have their local working? It's SQL Server, I think, is going to be not in the Kubernetes container stuff, but it'll be in their local maybe.
yeah. So there are a few options. If you want people to work in Docker locally and then have your deploy process in K8s, then that's the normal process, I would say. So in that case, they would only need to install kubectl and Helm, I think, in order to let me think about this. If you wanted to push code to test or something, would the devs need to do anything with Kubernetes locally? Probably not, actually, because what would happen is that at that point, the solution merge process would be hooked into something that would take the code, update the image, and then that's that. Yeah. But your other option is to just run everything Kubernetes. So in that case, locally, I would say Mirantis is the new Docker enterprise. The reason you need that, and it's costly, I think, is because we have a mixed Linux and Windows. Otherwise, if it was Linux only, you could just install a whole bunch of free tools and, call it. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
I'll keep you posted on what happens in the next few weeks.
Yes, please.
That's the question. Rob took my question. We always, the thing that we find will be more productive if developer can integrate the Docker solution with their Visual Studio solution. So basically kind of one-click deployment for their local environment, and we couldn't actually achieve that. I mean, I have many questions about that, but maybe later. I have one question about, like, as you mentioned that there are, like, site code is has to run on Windows container, and then we cannot actually really use both Linux and Windows container in the local environment, right? I mean, basically we have to be one or other. So on the AKS side, like in Kubernetes, those Solar instance and SQL and, like, Sitecore, are they running on different container?
Yeah, let me find that slide I had that showed what it looked like for me in let me share my screen. Yeah, so your SQL server container is, for some reason, Linux. I'm not sure why. Solar makes sense that it's Linux, right? Like, yeah, but SQL, it's awfully odd. Meanwhile, your inits are Windows. Yeah, so all of this together is just a base installation for AKS, and all of this is needed. And then in production, I would assume you probably need more as well. I would say you would probably have at least 2 CD pods, separately. Yeah, and potentially multiple Solar pods and SQL as well. So yeah, it can get crowded.
Yeah, and you said it's actually kind of expensive.
Yeah,
Right.
so to host it in Azure, bringing it up every day, taking it down every day for 6 weeks probably cost me about 120.
Oh,
So not terrible, but the first time I left it up, like, overnight, and the next day I logged in and it was already like $70. And I was just like, please help. I can't afford to
okay.
do this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then locally, using Mirantis as well, that is a cost. I'm not sure how much, but it's enterprise, so I would assume it's not cheap.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Is there any other question from anyone? All right, looks like no other questions. We really appreciate Shelley for presenting this. This was really informative, and we'll make sure to bring you back sometime again because we know that you have
I
more
have
to
more.
contribute. Okay, so, and in the meantime, check her Pluralsight code, and someone like me, newbie on the Docker, I will definitely go and check that. And yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Great job today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.